This will help you sleep, and when you wake up, everything will be different." Gerald Hayes smiled as he poured the clear liquid into the sippy cup. His hands were steady, his voice was gentle. The 2-year-old boy pressed his back against the wall, shaking tears streaming down hollow cheeks that used to be round and full of life. 9 days. 9 days without food. 9 days of watching this child fade away inch by inch. But Gerald didn't know someone was watching through a crack in the door. A black maid who had been in this mansion for only 3 weeks. A woman who had already figured out his secret. A woman who was about to do something so unexpected, so desperately simple, that it would destroy 18 years of careful planning. 1 drop of lemon juice was about to bring down a killer. Before we continue, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories travel around the world. And if you want to know how one desperate woman saved a dying child with nothing but her instincts and a piece of fruit, you need to stay with me until the very end. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and let's dive into a story that will stay with you long after it's over. The phone call came at 6:47 in the morning. Maya Johnson grabbed it on the second ring because she hadn't been sleeping anyway. 3 months of unemployment did that to a person. 3 months of watching her savings drain away. 3 months of wondering how a woman who had spent 4 years saving children's lives at Boston Children's Hospital had ended up staring at an eviction notice. "Maya, wake up. I found something." Denise, her older sister, the one who never stopped trying to fix Maya's life. "I'm awake. I've been awake since 4. There's a job, live-in housekeeper, Beacon Hill. The pay is incredible, Maya, room and board included." Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I was a pediatric nurse assistant, Denise. I held dying children in my arms. I watched parents say goodbye to their babies, and you want me to clean toilets for rich people? I want you to eat next week. I want you to not get evicted. I want my sister to stop pretending she's fine when I can hear her crying through the phone at night." Maya closed her eyes. Denise always knew. She always saw through the walls Maya tried to build. "What's wrong with the family?" "What do you mean? Rich families don't post job listings like normal people. They have agencies. They have connections. So what's wrong with them that nobody else will take the job?" Denise was quiet for a moment. "Their son is sick, 2 years old. Nobody knows what's wrong with him. They've been through 6 housekeepers in 2 months. Why do they keep quitting?" "I don't know. But Maya, listen to me. You're good with sick kids. You spent 4 years with them. Maybe you're exactly what this family needs. Maybe this is supposed to happen." Maya looked around her apartment. The empty refrigerator she couldn't afford to fill. The stack of bills she couldn't afford to pay. The eviction notice she had hidden in a drawer because looking at it made her want to scream. "Send me the address." "I already did. Interview is tomorrow at 10. Don't be late." "And Maya, yeah, wear something nice. These people are worth $15 million. The line went dead. Maya pulled up the address on her phone and felt her stomach drop. She knew this neighborhood. She had driven past these houses 1,000 times, always wondering what kind of people lived behind those perfect walls. Tomorrow, she would find out. The next morning, Maya stood outside the Whitmore mansion and tried to remember how to breathe. She had worn her best dress, the one she saved for job interviews and funerals. She had styled her hair and put on makeup for the first time in weeks. But standing here looking at this house, she felt small, invisible, like she didn't belong. She rang the doorbell anyway. The door opened almost immediately, and Maya found herself face to face with a woman who looked like she hadn't slept in days. Victoria Whitmore was beautiful in that exhausted, desperate way that Maya recognized from her years at the hospital. It was the look of a mother watching her child die. "You must be Maya. Please come in, quickly." Victoria grabbed her arm and pulled her inside. The door slammed shut behind them. "Thank you for coming. The agency won't send anyone else. They say we're too difficult. Can you believe that our son is dying and they say we're too difficult?" "Mrs. Whitmore, Victoria, please. Mrs. Whitmore is my mother-in-law, and she's part of the reason I drink." Victoria tried to laugh, but it turned into something closer to a sob. "I'm sorry. I'm not usually like this. I run a company. I close deals worth more than most people make in a lifetime. But my son hasn't eaten in 9 days, and I don't know how to fix it, and nobody will help me." Maya felt her training kick in, the instincts she had developed over 4 years of working with sick children and terrified parents. She reached out and took Victoria's hands. "Tell me about your son." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "His name is Mason. He's 2 years old. He was perfect, Maya. He was healthy and happy, and he laughed all the time. And then 3 weeks ago, something changed. He stopped laughing. He stopped talking. He stopped eating. And nobody can tell me why. What do the doctors say? Nothing. They say nothing is wrong with him. We've had specialists from Harvard, from Johns Hopkins, from the Cleveland Clinic. Blood tests, brain scans, every test you can imagine. Everything comes back normal." Victoria's voice cracked. "They say it's behavioral. They say he's being difficult. He's 2 years old, and he weighs 19 pounds, and they're telling me my baby is being difficult." Maya thought about the 6 housekeepers who had quit. She thought about the agency that wouldn't send anyone else. She thought about a 2-year-old boy who had stopped eating and stopped talking and stopped laughing. Something was very wrong in this house, something that had nothing to do with behavior. "Can I see him?" Victoria nodded and led her toward the stairs, but before they could take 3 steps, a voice stopped them. "Mrs. Whitmore, I apologize for the interruption." Maya turned. A man stood at the end of the hallway, tall, silver-haired, impeccably dressed in a dark suit that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. He walked toward them with the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly where you stood in the world. "Gerald, this is Maya Johnson. She's interviewing for the housekeeper position." "Ah, wonderful." Gerald smiled warmly and extended his hand to Maya. "Gerald Hayes. I've been with the Whitmore family for 18 years. I practically raised young Master Mason myself." Maya shook his hand. His grip was firm. His smile was pleasant. Everything about him radiated trust and competence. But something cold moved through Maya's stomach, something she couldn't explain. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Hayes." "Please call me Gerald. We're all family here." He turned to Victoria. "Is there anything you need before the interview continues? I've prepared some refreshments in the sitting room." "No, thank you, Gerald. I'm taking Maya to see Mason." Something flickered across Gerald's face. It was there and gone so fast that Maya almost missed it. But she had spent 4 years watching parents and doctors and nurses learning to read the things people didn't say out loud. That flicker had been fear. "Of course," Gerald said smoothly. "I'll make sure his lunch is ready for when you're finished." He walked away. Maya watched him go, watched the way he moved through the hallway like he owned it. "Gerald is wonderful," Victoria said as they climbed the stairs. "I don't know what I'd do without him. He's been with the family since Richard's first wife was alive. He handles everything." Richard's first wife. Catherine. She died in a car accident 6 years ago, before I met Richard. Gerald was devastated. He was Catherine's cousin, actually, distant cousin. He stayed with the family after she died, said he wanted to honor her memory. Maya filed that information away. Gerald was related to the first wife. Gerald had been here for 18 years. Gerald handled everything, and 6 housekeepers had quit in 2 months. They reached the nursery at the end of a long hallway. Victoria pushed the door open slowly like she was afraid of what she might find. Maya saw the boy immediately. Mason Whitmore sat in the corner of his crib, pressed against the bars, clutching a stuffed bear like his life depended on it. He was small, too small. His cheeks were hollow. His eyes were huge in his thin face. He looked like a ghost of the happy child Victoria had described. But what struck Maya most was the way he held himself. Still, watchful, silent, like a small animal that had learned to stop making noise because noise brought pain. She had seen that look before, in the hospital, in children who had been through things no child should ever experience. "Mason, sweetheart, there's someone here to meet you." Victoria's voice was gentle, desperate, breaking. Mason didn't look at his mother. His eyes were fixed on the doorway, waiting, as if he expected something terrible to walk through it at any moment. Maya stepped into the room slowly. She had learned at the hospital that scared children needed space. They needed to feel in control, even when they weren't. "Hi, Mason. My name is Maya." The little boy's eyes shifted to her. For a moment, something changed in his expression. The fear was still there, but underneath it, Maya saw something else. Hope. Desperate, fragile hope. And then footsteps echoed in the hallway behind them. Mason's entire body changed. His muscles locked. His breathing stopped. He pressed himself against the crib bars so hard that Maya could see the marks forming on his skin. "I brought Mason's morning snack." Gerald stood in the doorway holding a small plate. His smile was warm. His voice was pleasant. Everything about him was exactly right. Mason started to shake. "Gerald, you didn't have to do that," Victoria said. "We're in the middle of the interview." "Of course, Mrs. Whitmore. I'll just leave it here for him." Gerald walked into the room and set the plate on the changing table. Then he turned to look at Mason. "Hello, young master. I brought your favorite, banana slices." Mason didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. His eyes were locked on Gerald with an expression that made Maya's blood turn to ice. It was terror, pure, absolute, soul-deep terror. Maya had seen that look only a handful of times in her life, always in children who had been hurt by someone they should have been able to trust. "He's been so quiet lately," Victoria said sadly. "He used to babble all the time. Now he barely makes a sound." Gerald nodded sympathetically. "The doctors say it's just a phase. Children go through these things." He smiled at Mason one more time. "Eat your snack, young master. You need to keep your strength up." He left. His footsteps faded down the hallway, and slowly, very slowly, Mason's body began to relax. Maya watched him carefully. His breathing was returning to normal. His grip on the stuffed bear was loosening. The terror was fading from his eyes. She looked at the plate of banana slices on the changing table. Then she looked at Mason. The little boy was staring at the food like it was poison. "Mrs. Whitmore, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Who usually feeds Mason?" Victoria frowned. "Gerald brings his meals. He's been doing it since Mason was born. Why, does Mason always react this way when Gerald is in the room?" "What do you mean?" "The shaking, the silence, the way he pressed himself against the crib." Victoria's face went pale. I never noticed. I mean, Mason's been so sick. I thought he was just weak." Maya looked at the little boy in the crib. He was looking back at her with those huge, hollow eyes, and in that moment, she made a decision that would change everything. "I'll take the job." Victoria's face transformed. Relief flooded her features. Hope sparked in her eyes for the first time since Maya had met her. "You will? Oh, thank God. Thank God. When can you start?" "Today." Maya moved into the Whitmore mansion that afternoon. Her room was on the 3rd floor, small but clean. She didn't care about the room. She didn't care about the salary. She didn't care about anything except the little boy in the nursery who was too afraid to eat. That evening she met Richard Whitmore for the first time. He came home from work at 7 o'clock, still wearing his suit, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than Maya's car. He was handsome in that polished, wealthy way, but his eyes were tired, worried, lost. "You're the new housekeeper." "Yes, sir. Maya Johnson." Richard nodded absently. Good. My wife said you made quite an impression." He paused, looking toward the stairs that led to Mason's nursery. "Has he eaten anything today?" "No, sir." Richard's jaw tightened. 9 days. My son hasn't eaten in 9 days. The doctors keep telling me he's fine, that this is behavioral, that we just need to be patient." His voice cracked. "How am I supposed to be patient while my child starves to death?" "Mr. Whitmore, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Has anything changed recently in the household, I mean? New staff, new routines, anything that might have upset Mason?" Richard thought about it. "No, nothing. Everything's been the same. Gerald runs the household. He's been with us for 18 years. He would have told us if something had changed." Gerald. Everything kept coming back to Gerald. "Thank you, sir. I should check on Mason before bed. Maya walked upstairs, her mind racing. She needed proof. She needed evidence. She needed something more than the terror in a 2-year-old's eyes. She pushed open the nursery door and froze. Gerald was inside. He stood over Mason's crib, his back to the door, holding something in his hand. A bottle, small, clear. He was whispering something to the boy. And nobody will ever believe you. You understand that, don't you? Nobody believes babies. They just think you're sick. They think you're being difficult. And soon you'll be too weak to fight anymore. It's almost over, young master. Almost over. Maya's heart stopped. Gerald was talking to Mason like he was explaining something. Explaining why the boy was going to die. Explaining why nobody would save him. And Mason just sat there, shaking silent tears running down his cheeks. Maya must have made a sound because Gerald turned around suddenly. His face shifted from cold calculation to warm pleasantness in the space of a heartbeat. Maya, I didn't hear you come in. I came to check on Mason before bed. How thoughtful. Gerald slipped the bottle into his jacket pocket. Smooth, natural, like he had done it 1,000 times. I was just saying goodnight to the young master. He has trouble sleeping sometimes. I find that a little conversation helps. Maya forced herself to smile. That's very kind of you. Kindness is what family does. Gerald walked toward the door toward her. He stopped when he was close enough for her to smell his cologne. You seem like a smart woman, Maya, the kind who notices things. I try to be observant. Observation is a valuable skill, but it can also be dangerous. His eyes locked onto hers. In a household like this, it's important to know which things are worth noticing and which things are best left alone. The threat was wrapped in silk, but it was a threat nonetheless. I understand. I'm glad. Sleep well, Maya. Tomorrow is a new day. He left. Maya stood in the doorway, her hands shaking, her heart pounding. She had heard him. She had heard what he said to Mason, but she had no proof, no recording, nothing but her word against 18 years of loyalty. She walked to Mason's crib. The little boy looked up at her with those huge, hollow eyes. Mason, I'm going to help you, I promise, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Mason stared at her for a long moment. Then so slowly she almost missed it. He reached out his tiny hand and grabbed her finger. He held on like she was the only solid thing in his world. Maya felt tears burn her eyes. I've got you, baby. I've got you. The next morning, Maya started watching. She watched Gerald bring Mason his breakfast at 7 o'clock sharp. She watched the little boy refuse to touch the scrambled eggs and toast. She watched Gerald smile pleasantly and take the untouched plate away. She watched Gerald bring Mason his lunch at noon. She watched the same thing happen with the chicken and vegetables. She watched Gerald smile, never waver. She watched Gerald bring Mason his dinner at 6. She watched Mason press himself against the wall of his high chair, shaking crying silent tears. She watched Gerald set the plate down and walk away without a word. And she watched Mason slowly fade. By her 3rd day in the house, Maya knew she had to do something. The boy was weaker. His cheeks were more hollow. His eyes were more dull. He was dying right in front of her, and she was the only one who could see why. That afternoon she asked Victoria if she could feed Mason his lunch. Of course, Gerald usually does it, but I'm sure he won't mind. Maya went to the kitchen. Marie the cook was preparing Mason's meal. Mashed sweet potatoes. I'll take it up today, Maya said. Marie shrugged. Makes no difference to me. Kid's not going to eat it anyway. Don't know why we bother. Maya carried the tray upstairs. She knocked on the nursery door before entering, giving Mason warning that someone was coming. The little boy was in his high chair. Gerald must have placed him there. He sat perfectly still, staring at nothing, waiting for the meal that would hurt him. Hey, Mason, it's Maya. I brought your lunch. Mason's eyes shifted to her. She saw fear first, then recognition, then something that looked almost like relief. I'm going to sit right here with you. Okay, you don't have to eat anything. I just want to keep you company. She pulled a chair next to his high chair and sat down. The sweet potatoes steamed on the tray, but she didn't touch them. She didn't offer the food. She just sat there quiet and present, letting Mason know he wasn't alone. After a few minutes, his rigid posture began to soften. His breathing slowed. He looked at Maya with those huge, hollow eyes. "You're scared, aren't you?" It wasn't a question. Maya knew the answer. She had known it since the moment she heard Gerald whispering to this boy in the darkness. Mason's lower lip trembled. "It's okay to be scared. I get scared sometimes too. But you know what? I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you. I'm going to protect you." The little boy stared at her. Then, for the first time in weeks, he spoke. "Hurts." Maya's heart stopped. "What hurts, sweetheart?" Mason pointed at the plate of sweet potatoes. His hand was shaking. "Food hurts." Maya looked at the plate. Then she looked at Mason. "Does the food make your tummy hurt?" He nodded, tears spilling down his hollow cheeks. "Does it hurt every time Gerald brings you food?" Mason's face crumpled. He covered his eyes with his tiny hands and started sobbing. Not the loud wails of a normal 2-year-old, but the quiet, shaking sobs of a child who had learned that crying brought punishment. Maya's hands clenched into fists. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run downstairs and confront Gerald right now. But she couldn't. She had no proof. She had nothing but the words of a terrified toddler. It wouldn't be enough. "Mason, listen to me." She kept her voice calm, even though her heart was racing. "I believe you. I believe that the food hurts, and I'm going to help you. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Mason lowered his hands from his face. His cheeks were wet, his eyes red, but he was looking at her with something that looked almost like hope. He nodded. "Good boy. Such a brave, brave boy." Maya picked up the plate of sweet potatoes. She carried it to the bathroom and scraped every bit into the toilet. She flushed it twice to make sure nothing was left. Then she pulled out her phone and called her sister. "Denise, I need your help." "Maya, what's wrong? You sound weird." "I need you to go to the store. Buy baby food in sealed jars, fresh fruit, crackers in sealed packages, bottled water, anything that hasn't been opened, anything that nobody else has touched." "What? Why?" "Someone is poisoning the baby in this house. I know how that sounds. I know you probably think I'm crazy. But I heard him, Denise. I heard the man who's doing it, and I need to prove it. But first, I need to keep this child alive long enough to find evidence." Silence on the other end of the line. "Where do I bring it?" Maya felt tears of relief burn her eyes. "There's a service entrance at the back of the house. Text me when you're there. Don't come to the front door. Don't talk to anyone. Just text me and I'll come down." "Maya, this sounds dangerous." "It is dangerous, but there's a 2-year-old boy in this house who's going to die if I don't do something. I can't let that happen, Denise. I can't watch another child die." Her sister was quiet for a long moment. "I'll be there in an hour." Maya hung up and went back to Mason. The little boy was still in his high chair, but his posture had changed. He wasn't slumped anymore. He was sitting up, watching the door, waiting for her. "Help is coming, sweetheart. I promise." Exactly 1 hour later, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Denise. She was at the service entrance. Maya slipped downstairs, checking every corner, making sure Gerald was nowhere in sight. She found him in the hallway near the stairs. "Maya, going somewhere?" Her heart stopped. "Just taking out some trash." "Ah, the service entrance is the other way." "I know. I'm still learning the layout of the house." Gerald smiled, that pleasant, warm smile that made Maya's skin crawl. "Take your time. There's no rush." He paused. "How is young Master Mason doing? I noticed you fed him his lunch today." "I thought I'd give you a break." "How thoughtful. Did he eat anything?" "No, he didn't touch it." Gerald nodded slowly. "Such a tragedy. The boy just won't eat. It's almost as if he's given up on life." His eyes locked onto hers. "Some children are like that, you know. Too weak to survive, too fragile for this world. It's nature's way." Maya forced herself to keep her expression neutral. "I should go. The trash. Of course. Don't let me keep you." She walked past him, feeling his eyes on her back the entire way. When she finally reached the service entrance and pushed through the door, she was shaking so hard she could barely stand. Denise was waiting with a bag of groceries and fear in her eyes. "Maya, what is going on?" "I can't explain right now." Maya grabbed the bag. "But thank you. Thank you so much. This house gives me bad vibes. There's something wrong here. I can feel it." "I know, but I can't leave. Not yet. Not until I save him." Denise grabbed her arm. "Save who, Maya? What are you involved in?" "A 2-year-old boy who's being poisoned by someone everyone trusts. Someone who's been planning this for 18 years. Someone who's going to kill him if I don't stop it." "Then call the police. And tell them what I have no proof. I have nothing but my gut and the words of a terrified baby. They won't believe me. They never believe people like us." Denise's face crumpled. She knew Maya was right. They had both learned that lesson too many times. "What are you going to do?" "Whatever I have to." Maya took the groceries and went back inside. That night, after everyone was asleep, she sat on the floor of the locked nursery with Mason in her lap. The groceries were spread out around them: sealed baby food jars, fresh strawberries, crackers in unopened packages, bottled water. Mason eyed the food with terror. He was hungry. Maya could see it in the way his eyes followed the packages, in the way his little body leaned toward them. But he was too afraid, too traumatized, too conditioned to believe that food meant pain. "Okay, Mason, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to eat some of this first, right in front of you, and you're going to see that nothing bad happens to me, okay?" She opened a jar of baby food, peaches. She took a spoonful and ate it, making a show of chewing and swallowing. "See, yummy, and I feel fine." Mason watched her carefully. His eyes tracked the spoon, the jar, her face, looking for signs of pain, looking for proof that the food was poison. Maya waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Still fine, no hurting, no pain. She offered him the jar. His little hands reached for it, then pulled back, reached again, pulled back. Maya felt her heart breaking. This child had been so traumatized that he was afraid to eat even when she showed him it was safe. Then she remembered something. At the hospital, there had been a baby who refused to eat after a bad reaction to medication. Nothing worked. No amount of coaxing, no amount of patience. The baby was dying. One of the older nurses had suggested something simple. Start with something so pure, so basic, that the baby couldn't possibly associate it with fear. Start with something natural. Maya looked at the groceries. At the bottom of the bag, there was a lemon Denise had thrown in. A lemon, sealed in its own skin, completely untouched. Maya picked it up. She found a clean knife and cut it in half. The sharp, bright smell filled the room. Mason's nose wrinkled. He had probably never smelled anything like it. "This is a lemon, Mason. It's going to taste sour. It might make you make a funny face, but it's just a lemon. Nothing else. Nobody touched it except me." She squeezed a single drop of juice onto her finger. "I'm going to taste it first." She touched her finger to her tongue and made an exaggerated sour face. "Ooh, that's tangy." For the first time since Maya had met him, Mason's expression changed. His eyes widened. The corner of his mouth twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was something. Maya squeezed another drop onto her finger and held it out to him. "Want to try just one tiny drop?" Mason stared at her finger, at the clear drop of juice glistening there. He was fighting. She could see it in his face, fighting against the fear that had controlled him for so long. Then slowly he leaned forward. He touched his tongue to her finger. His face scrunched up immediately. The sour taste was strong, sharp, completely different from anything Gerald had ever given him. But he swallowed. Maya's breath caught in her throat. Tears burned her eyes. "Good boy. Do you want another drop?" Mason hesitated, then he nodded. She squeezed another drop. He tasted it, made the same sour face, swallowed again. "Oh, Mason, such a brave, brave boy." She gave him 3 more drops, then a tiny piece of strawberry, then a sip of water from the sealed bottle. Mason ate. For the first time in 9 days, Mason Whitmore ate. Not much, just small bites. But it was something. It was hope. It was proof that he could still trust, that he could still live. Maya held him close, rocking him gently, tears streaming down her face. This child who had been dying. This child who had been poisoned by someone everyone trusted. This child who had found one person willing to see the truth. "I've got you," she whispered. "I've got you, and I'm never letting go." She didn't know how long she sat there holding him, feeling his small body relax against hers. But eventually she realized she needed to put him to bed. She needed to make a plan. She needed to figure out how to expose Gerald without getting them both killed. She laid Mason in his crib and tucked his stuffed bear beside him. He grabbed her finger before she could pull away. "Stay." One word, whispered so quietly she almost missed it. "I'll be right here, baby. I'm not going anywhere." She pulled a chair next to the crib and sat down. Mason's eyes stayed on her face as his breathing slowed, as his grip on her finger loosened, as he finally fell asleep. Maya watched him for a long time. This innocent child who had done nothing wrong, this tiny human being who had been targeted by a monster wearing a pleasant smile. She thought about Gerald, about the bottle she had seen him holding, about the whispered words in the darkness, about 18 years of planning and waiting and positioning himself to destroy a child who hadn't even been born yet. She thought about Catherine Richards' first wife, Gerald's cousin, the woman who had died in a car accident 6 years ago. Accident. That word kept echoing in Maya's mind. Accident. What if it wasn't? What if Catherine's death wasn't an accident at all? What if Gerald had been planning something even longer than she thought? Maya pulled out her phone and started searching. Catherine Hayes Whitmore. Car accident, 6 years ago. The articles were sparse. Wealthy woman dies in single car crash. No other vehicles involved. Investigation ruled it accidental. Case closed. But Maya kept digging. She found an obituary. Catherine had been young, 28 years old. She had inherited a fortune from her parents, real estate stocks, trust funds worth millions. And when she died, that fortune had gone to her husband, Richard. Richard, who had remarried 2 years later. Richard, who had a son named Mason. Mason, who stood to inherit everything. Maya's blood ran cold. If Mason died, what would happen to the inheritance? Who would contest it? Who would have a claim? Gerald, Catherine's cousin. The man who had been positioning himself in this family for 18 years. This wasn't just about poisoning a child. This was about money, about inheritance, about a plan that had been set in motion before Mason was even born. Maya's hands were shaking as she put her phone away. She looked at the sleeping boy in the crib, this innocent child who had no idea that his existence was an obstacle to someone's greed. She needed evidence, real evidence. Something she could take to the police, to the Whitmores, to anyone who would listen. Tomorrow she would search Gerald's room. Tomorrow she would find proof. Tomorrow she would expose him for the monster he was. But tonight she would keep watch. She would protect this child with her life if she had to. Maya settled into the chair, her eyes on the door, her hand resting on the crib rail where Mason could reach her if he woke up. She didn't sleep. She didn't dare. Hours passed. The house was silent. Maya's eyes grew heavy, but she forced herself to stay awake. She couldn't let her guard down. Not now. Not when Mason was finally starting to trust her. At 3:17 in the morning, her phone buzzed. Maya grabbed it, her heart pounding. Unknown number. She opened the message and felt her blood turn to ice. "I know what you did today. I know what you gave him. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Maya stared at the screen, her hands shaking. Gerald knew. He already knew about the lemon, about the sealed food, about everything. Another message came through. "We need to talk. Tomorrow. After the family leaves. Just you and me." Maya looked at Mason sleeping peacefully in his crib. This child who had finally eaten for the first time in 9 days. This child who was starting to believe he might survive. She had just made herself a target. She had just put herself between a murderer and his prey. And tomorrow, she would have to face him alone. Her phone buzzed one more time. "Sweet dreams, Maya. Enjoy them while you can." Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat in the chair next to Mason's crib, watching the door, listening to every creak and groan of the old mansion. Every shadow made her heart race. Every footstep in the hallway made her hold her breath. Gerald knew. He knew what she had done. And he was coming for her. At 5:47 in the morning, Mason stirred in his crib. His eyes fluttered open and found Maya immediately. For a moment, fear crossed his face. Then he recognized her, and his whole body relaxed. Maya. "Good morning, sweetheart. Did you sleep okay?" He nodded and reached for her. Maya lifted him from the crib and held him close. He was still too light, still too fragile, but there was something different about him today, a spark of life that hadn't been there before. "Hungry." Maya's heart soared. He was hungry. For the first time in 9 days, this child was asking for food. "I'll get you something to eat, baby. Something safe, I promise." She carried him to the small bathroom connected to the nursery and locked both doors. Then she pulled out the groceries Denise had brought. Sealed crackers, a jar of baby food, bottled water. Mason ate, not much, but more than yesterday. He ate 3 crackers and half a jar of applesauce. He drank water from the sealed bottle. And when he was finished, he looked up at Maya with something she hadn't seen in his eyes before. Trust. Real, genuine trust. "Thank you." Maya felt tears burn her eyes. "You're welcome, baby. You're so welcome." At 7:15, footsteps approached the nursery door. Maya's entire body tensed. She positioned herself between Mason and the door, ready to fight, ready to scream, ready to do whatever it took to protect this child. The door handle turned, locked. A pause. "Maya, are you in there?" Victoria's voice, not Gerald's. Maya let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. She unlocked the door. Victoria stood there in her silk robe, dark circles under her eyes, looking like she hadn't slept either. "I heard you were up all night. The night staff mentioned they saw your light on." Victoria stepped into the room and froze when she saw Mason. Is he eating crackers?" "Yes, ma'am. He asked for food this morning." Victoria's hand flew to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She rushed to Mason and knelt beside him, touching his face like she couldn't believe he was real. "Baby, you're eating. Oh my God, you're eating." She looked up at Maya. What did you do?" Maya chose her words carefully. "I think Mason needed to feel safe. I think he needed to know that nobody was going to hurt him." "Hurt him? What do you mean, who would hurt him?" Before Maya could answer, another set of footsteps echoed in the hallway. Heavier, more deliberate. Maya recognized them immediately. Gerald appeared in the doorway. "Good morning, Mrs. Whitmore. I heard the wonderful news." His smile was warm, genuine, perfectly pleasant. "Young Master Mason is eating again. What a relief." Victoria stood up, wiping her tears. "Gerald, can you believe it? Maya got him to eat? After 9 days, she got him to eat. How remarkable." Gerald's eyes shifted to Maya. Something cold flickered in them, something dangerous. "You must have a special touch, Maya, a gift." "I just gave him what he needed." "And what was that exactly, Pam? Food he could trust?" The words hung in the air. Gerald's smile didn't waver, but Maya saw his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. Victoria didn't notice. She was too busy fussing over Mason, too happy to see her son eating, to pay attention to the tension crackling between her housekeeper and her butler. "Gerald, can you tell Marie to prepare something special for Mason? Something soft, easy to digest. We need to build him back up slowly." "Of course, Mrs. Whitmore. I'll handle it personally." "No." The word came out sharper than Maya intended. Both Victoria and Gerald turned to look at her. "I mean, I'd like to handle Mason's meals myself. If that's okay, we've established a routine. I don't want to disrupt it." Victoria frowned. "But Gerald always handles Mason's meals. He's been doing it since Mason was born." "I know, ma'am, but Mason seems more comfortable with me right now. I think we should keep things consistent until he's fully recovered." Gerald's smile was still in place, but his eyes had gone flat, dead, like a shark's eyes right before it strikes. Whatever you think is best, Maya. I only want what's good for the young master. Victoria nodded slowly. All right, if you think that's what Mason needs. But Gerald, I still want you to oversee the household. Make sure Maya has everything she needs. Of course, Mrs. Whitmore. I live to serve this family. He left. Maya watched him go, watched the way his shoulders were slightly more rigid than before, watched the way his hands were clenched at his sides. She had just declared war, and Gerald knew it. At 9:30, Victoria and Richard left for a meeting with Mason's doctors. They wanted to tell the specialists that their son was finally eating. They wanted answers about what had gone wrong. Maya watched their car pull out of the driveway. Then she turned and found Gerald standing behind her. Alone at last. Maya's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. I got your messages. I assumed you did. You were awake all night. Gerald walked past her close enough that his shoulder almost brushed hers. That must have been uncomfortable, sitting in that chair, watching the door, waiting for the monster to come. You are a monster. Gerald laughed. It was a pleasant sound, the kind of laugh you might hear at a dinner party or a charity event. It made Maya's skin crawl. Such strong words. And what evidence do you have to support this accusation? I heard you. I heard what you said to Mason. Nobody will ever believe you. It's almost over. Ah, Gerald nodded slowly. You were listening at the door. How industrious of you. He turned to face her. But here's the problem, Maya. You have no proof. You have the word of a 2-year-old and your own suspicions. Do you know what that's worth in a court of law? Nothing. Less than nothing. I'll find proof. Will you? And where will you look? My room, perhaps? My personal belongings? Gerald smiled. Go ahead. Search all you want. You won't find anything. I've been doing this for 18 years. I don't make mistakes. Maya felt cold spread through her body. 18 years. He had said 18 years. Catherine, she whispered. You killed her too, didn't you? Gerald's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Something that told Maya she had hit the truth. Catherine died in a car accident. Single vehicle. No other parties involved. The police investigated. They found nothing suspicious. Because you covered your tracks. Because there was nothing to find. Gerald stepped closer. You're smart, Maya. Too smart for your own good. So let me explain the situation very clearly. You can leave this house today. Walk away. Forget what you saw, what you heard, what you think you know. Start over somewhere else. I'll even give you a reference. A glowing one. And if I don't, then things become complicated. Gerald's voice dropped. Accidents happen in old houses like this. Falls down stairs, electrical fires, carbon monoxide leaks. So many ways for tragedy to strike. You're threatening me. I'm educating you. There's a difference. He glanced toward the stairs. I'm also educating you about your sister. Denise, isn't it? She works at that coffee shop on Beacon Street, opens every morning at 6, walks home alone at 11. Such a predictable routine. It would be a shame if something disrupted it. Maya's blood turned to ice. You stay away from my sister. I'm not going to hurt your sister, Maya, not unless you force me to. Gerald straightened his tie. Think about what I've said. Think very carefully. The Whitmores will be home by noon. I expect your answer by then. He walked away. Maya stood frozen, her hands shaking, her mind racing. He had threatened Denise. He had threatened to kill her sister if she didn't back down. But if she backed down, Mason would die. Gerald would find another way. He would wait until Maya was gone, until everyone's guard was down, and he would finish what he started. Maya couldn't let that happen. She wouldn't let that happen. She pulled out her phone and called Denise. Maya, is everything okay? No, listen to me very carefully. I need you to go stay with Aunt Patricia in Worcester, today, right now. Don't go home first. Don't pack a bag. Just get in your car and drive. What? Why, Maya, you're scaring me. The man who's hurting the baby. He knows about you. He threatened you. I need you somewhere safe until this is over. Silence on the other end. Then Denise's voice shaking but determined. "Maya, come with me. Leave that house. We can go to the police together." "I can't leave. If I leave, that little boy dies. I'm the only thing standing between him and the man who wants to kill him." "Then let me help. Let me do something." Maya thought for a moment. "There is something. I need you to find information about a woman named Catherine Hayes Whitmore. She died in a car accident 6 years ago. I need everything you can find. Newspaper articles, police reports, anything. There might be a connection to what's happening now." "I'm on it. But Maya, please be careful. Please don't do anything stupid." "I'm going to do whatever it takes to save this child. If that's stupid, then I'm the stupidest person alive." She hung up and looked at the clock. 10:15. She had less than 2 hours before the Whitmores came home. Less than 2 hours to find evidence. Maya climbed the stairs to the second floor. Gerald's room was at the end of the staff wing. She had never been inside. The door was unlocked. That surprised her. Gerald was so careful, so controlled. Why would he leave his door unlocked unless he wanted her to come in? Unless this was a trap. Maya pushed the door open anyway. The room was immaculate, military precision, a single bed with perfect corners, a desk with nothing on it, a closet with clothes arranged by color. She started with the desk, empty drawers, nothing but old receipts and tax documents. She moved to the closet, suits arranged perfectly, shoes polished to a mirror shine, nothing hidden in the pockets, nothing tucked away in corners. She checked under the mattress. Nothing. Behind the dresser, nothing. Inside the heating vent, nothing. Gerald had been telling the truth. There was nothing here, no evidence, no proof, just the room of a man who had spent 18 years learning to hide his secrets. Maya sank onto the bed, fighting despair. She had risked everything coming here, and she had found nothing. Then she noticed something. The mattress was uneven, not much, just slightly higher on one side than the other, like something was underneath. Maya lifted the mattress and felt along the bed frame. Her fingers found a small compartment built into the wood, a hidden space that wouldn't show unless you knew exactly where to look. Inside was a metal box. Maya's hands trembled as she pulled it out. It was locked, but the lock was small. Simple. She grabbed a hairpin from her pocket and worked at it. 10 seconds, 20. The lock clicked open. Inside were papers, legal documents, a family tree drawn by hand, and photographs. Maya spread them out on the bed and felt her world tilt. The family tree showed Gerald's connection to Catherine Hayes, not distant cousin like Victoria had said. First cousin. Catherine's father and Gerald's father had been brothers, and according to these documents, Catherine's will had originally left her entire fortune to her family, not to Richard, not to any future children, to her blood relatives. But that will had been changed 2 months before Catherine died. The new will left everything to Richard. Maya stared at the documents. Catherine had changed her will 2 months before her accident, and Gerald, her first cousin, had been cut out completely, unless Catherine hadn't changed the will at all, unless someone had forged it. There were more papers underneath, receipts from online pharmacies, substances Maya had never heard of. She pulled out her phone and searched. The first substance was a sedative, powerful, undetectable in standard blood tests. The second was something called thallium. Maya searched it and felt sick. Thallium was a poison, tasteless, odorless. It caused nausea, vomiting, weight loss, muscle weakness. In large doses, it caused death. In small doses over time, it caused exactly the symptoms Mason had been showing. Maya photographed everything, every document, every receipt, every piece of evidence that proved Gerald Hayes was a murderer. Then she heard footsteps in the hallway. Maya shoved the papers back in the box, slammed the lid shut, pushed it back into the hidden compartment, dropped the mattress. She looked around frantically. There was nowhere to hide. The closet was too obvious. Under the bed was too exposed. The bathroom. There was a small bathroom connected to the room. Maya ran for it just as the bedroom door opened. She pressed herself against the wall behind the bathroom door, holding her breath, praying Gerald wouldn't come in. "I know you're in here, Maya." Gerald's voice was calm, pleasant. terrifying. I saw you enter my room on the security camera. Did you really think I wouldn't have cameras in my own hallway? Maya's heart stopped. Cameras? Of course he had cameras. How could she have been so stupid? You found my box. I can see the mattress is disturbed. You're very clever. Gerald's footsteps moved closer. But cleverness isn't enough, Maya. It's not enough to find evidence. You have to survive long enough to use it. Maya's hand moved to her pocket. Her phone. The photos. If she could just get out of here, if she could just get to Victoria or the police or anyone who would listen. The bathroom door flew open. Gerald stood there blocking her only exit, his pleasant smile finally gone. In its place was something cold, something empty, something that had been hiding behind that mask for 18 years. Give me your phone. No. Maya, let's not make this harder than it needs to be. He held out his hand. Give me the phone. Delete the photos. Walk away. This is your last chance. And what happens to Mason? You'll just find another way to kill him. Mason is none of your concern anymore. He's a child, a 2-year-old child. How can you do this to a baby? Something flickered in Gerald's eyes. For just a moment, Maya thought she saw something human, something almost like pain. Catherine was supposed to inherit everything, he said quietly. Her father built that fortune from nothing. He worked himself to death so his daughter would never want for anything. And then she married Richard, changed her will, left everything to a man who didn't deserve a penny of it. So you killed her. I corrected a mistake. Gerald's voice hardened. Catherine's money should have stayed in our family. Instead, it went to Richard. And then Richard married that woman. And then that woman had a child who will inherit everything Catherine's father built. Mason is innocent. He didn't choose any of this. Innocent? Gerald laughed bitterly. There's no such thing as innocent. There's only what you inherit and what you take. Mason inherited what should have been mine. I'm simply taking it back. Maya shook her head. You're insane. I'm practical. There's a difference. Gerald stepped closer. Now give me the phone, Maya. I won't ask again. Maya's mind raced. She couldn't fight him. He was bigger, stronger, and he was standing between her and the only exit. But she couldn't give up the phone. It was the only evidence she had. What about Richard? She asked, stalling. Does he know what you did to Catherine? Richard is a fool. He believed the police report. He believed the doctors. He believes whatever anyone tells him because he's too busy making money to pay attention to his own life. Gerald's lip curled with contempt. He doesn't deserve Catherine's fortune. He doesn't deserve that house. He doesn't deserve anything. And you do. I've earned it. 18 years of service. 18 years of watching Richard live off Catherine's money while I got nothing. Do you know what that's like? Watching someone else enjoy what should have been yours. Maya saw her opening. Gerald was lost in his anger, his resentment, his 18 years of festering hatred. He wasn't watching her hands. She pulled out her phone and threw it. Not at Gerald. Past him, through the bathroom door and into the bedroom. Gerald spun around instinctively, reaching for the phone. Maya ran. She shoved past him, her shoulder hitting his chest, knocking him off balance. She didn't stop to see if he fell. She just ran. Out of the bedroom, down the hallway, toward the stairs. Maya! Gerald's voice echoed behind her, but she didn't look back. She flew down the stairs, her feet barely touching the steps. The front door. She had to reach the front door, had to get outside, had to find help. She reached the bottom of the stairs and collided with something solid. Richard Whitmore. Maya, what's wrong? What's happening? Behind her, she heard Gerald's footsteps on the stairs, coming fast, coming for her. Mr. Whitmore, your butler is trying to kill your son. Richard's face went blank. What? Gerald. He's been poisoning Mason. That's why Mason won't eat. Gerald puts something in his food. I have proof. I have photos on my phone. But Gerald has my phone upstairs, and he's going to destroy the evidence. Richard stared at her, like she was speaking a foreign language. Gerald appeared at the bottom of the stairs, slightly out of breath, his suit still impeccable. His pleasant smile was back in place. "Mr. Whitmore, I apologize for the disturbance. Maya seems to be having some kind of episode. I found her in my room going through my personal belongings." "That's because I was looking for evidence," Maya shot back, "and I found it. Receipts for poison. Documents showing his connection to Catherine's estate. A family tree proving he's her first cousin, not her distant cousin like he told everyone." Richard looked from Maya to Gerald. "Gerald, what is she talking about?" "I have no idea, sir. As I said, she seems unwell." "I'm not unwell. He threatened to kill me. He threatened to hurt my sister. He told me that if I didn't leave, accidents would happen." "This is absurd," Gerald said smoothly. "I've served this family for 18 years. I loved Catherine like a sister. I would never harm anyone." "You killed Catherine." Maya's voice rang out clear and strong. "You killed her and made it look like an accident. And now you're trying to kill Mason so you can contest the inheritance." Richard's face had gone pale. "Gerald, is any of this true?" "Of course not, sir. Maya has clearly invented this entire fantasy. Perhaps the stress of working with a sick child has affected her judgment." "Then you won't mind if I search your room?" Everyone turned. Victoria stood in the doorway, her face white, her eyes blazing. "Victoria," Richard started, "we don't need to." "Our son almost died, Richard. For 9 days he wouldn't eat. And now our housekeeper is telling us that your butler has been poisoning him." Victoria's voice shook with fury. "I want to see Gerald's room, right now." Gerald's smile flickered, just for a second. "Mrs. Whitmore, I really don't think—" "I wasn't asking for your permission." Victoria pushed past them and headed for the stairs. Richard followed. Maya followed. And Gerald, his mask finally showing cracks, followed last. They reached his room. Victoria walked straight to the bed and lifted the mattress. "There's a hidden compartment," Maya said. "In the bed frame, on the left side." Victoria felt along the wood. Her fingers found the compartment. She pulled out the metal box. "It's locked," she said. "I can explain." Gerald started. "Break it open." Richard took the box from his wife and slammed it against the desk. Once, twice. The lock shattered on the third blow. The lid flew open. Papers spilled out. The family tree, the receipts, the documents, the photographs. Victoria picked up the family tree first. Her eyes scanned it, and her face went gray. "You're Catherine's first cousin, not distant, first." "Victoria, please." "You told us you were a distant relative. You said that's why you stayed after she died, to honor her memory." Victoria's voice was rising. "But you're her first cousin, her closest living relative, and according to Catherine's original will, you should have inherited everything." Richard grabbed the receipts. His hands were shaking as he read the names of the substances. "What is thallium?" "It's a poison," Maya said quietly. "Tasteless, odorless. It causes nausea, vomiting, weight loss. In small doses over time, it causes failure to thrive. In children, it looks like a mysterious illness, something behavioral, something doctors can't explain." Victoria made a sound like a wounded animal. "You poisoned my baby." "I can explain," Gerald said again. But his voice had lost its smoothness. His mask was crumbling. "Catherine's father built that fortune. It should have stayed in our family. It should have—" Victoria slapped him. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. "You tried to kill my son." Victoria's voice was deadly calm. "You tried to kill a 2-year-old child for money." "He was never supposed to exist," Gerald exploded. The mask was gone now. 18 years of hidden rage poured out like poison. "Catherine's money was supposed to come to me when Richard died. I was going to wait. I'm patient. But then Richard married you. Then you had that child. And suddenly everything Catherine's father built was going to go to a boy who has no connection to our family." "Mason is our son," Richard said. His voice was shaking. "He's innocent." "There's no such thing as innocent," Gerald was screaming now. "There's only what you inherit and what you take. I've spent 18 years waiting. 18 years serving people who don't deserve what they have. I'm not going to let a 2-year-old steal my birthright. Victoria pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. Gerald lunged. He grabbed Victoria's arm, trying to wrestle the phone away. Richard shouted and threw himself at Gerald. The three of them crashed into the desk, sending papers flying. Maya didn't think. She grabbed the metal box and swung it as hard as she could. It connected with the back of Gerald's head. He crumpled to the floor and didn't move. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Victoria stood there, shaking her phone still clutched in her hand. Richard stared at Gerald's unconscious body. Maya stood over him, the metal box still raised, ready to swing again. Is he dead? Victoria whispered. Maya knelt down and checked his pulse. No, just unconscious. Good. Victoria's voice was ice. I want him alive. I want him to stand trial. I want the whole world to know what he did to my son. She dialed 911. 20 minutes later, the police arrived. They handcuffed Gerald, who had regained consciousness and was screaming about his rights, about inheritance, about how Catherine's money belonged to him. Nobody listened. Maya stood in the corner watching the chaos unfold. She had done it. She had found the evidence. She had exposed the truth. Mason was safe. Victoria walked over to her, tears streaming down her face. You saved my son. You saved my family. I just did what anyone would do. No. Victoria shook her head. No, you didn't. 6 other housekeepers worked in this house. 6 other people had the chance to notice what you noticed, and they all walked away. But you stayed. You fought. You risked your life for a child who wasn't even yours. Maya looked toward the nursery where Mason was being watched by a police officer. The little boy was clutching his stuffed bear, his eyes wide with confusion. I need to go to him, Maya said. He must be so scared. Go. I'll handle things here. Maya walked to the nursery and knelt beside Mason. The little boy immediately reached for her, wrapping his thin arms around her neck. Bad man gone. Yes, sweetheart. The bad man is gone. He's never going to hurt you again. Mason pulled back and looked at her with those huge, hollow eyes. But they weren't hollow anymore. There was life in them now. Hope. Stay. Maya felt tears spill down her cheeks. Yeah, baby. I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere. Mason smiled. A real smile. The first one Maya had ever seen from him. And in that moment, all the fear and danger and sleepless nights were worth it. All the threats and close calls and moments of terror faded away because she had saved him. Against all odds, against a monster who had been planning this for 18 years, she had saved a little boy's life. Her phone buzzed. A text from Denise. I found something about Catherine. Call me when you can. It's important. Maya looked at the message, then at Mason, then at the police officers leading Gerald out of the house. It wasn't over yet. There was more to learn, more truth to uncover. But for right now in this moment, she held a little boy who was finally safe. And that was enough. The police cars had barely left the driveway when Maya stepped into the hallway and called Denise. Her sister answered on the first ring. Maya, thank God. Are you okay? I've been watching the news. They're saying someone was arrested at the Whitmore mansion. I'm fine. Gerald is gone. The police took him. Maya glanced back at the nursery where Mason was finally sleeping peacefully. What did you find about Catherine? It's not good, Maya. It's really not good. Tell me. Denise took a deep breath. Catherine Hayes Whitmore didn't die in a simple car accident. I found the original police report. Her brake lines were cut. Maya's blood went cold. What? The police investigated. They found evidence of tampering, but the case was closed 3 weeks later. The detective in charge suddenly retired, moved to Florida, bought a house worth $500,000 in cash. Someone paid him off. That's what I'm thinking. And Maya, there's more. I found Catherine's original will, the one Gerald was talking about. It left everything to her family, specifically to her father's side, Gerald's side. Gerald said the will was changed 2 months before she died. It was. But here's the thing. The lawyer who handled the new will, he died 6 months after Catherine. Heart attack. And the witnesses who signed the documents, one moved overseas. The other one died in a house fire 2 years ago. Maya felt sick. Gerald killed them. He killed everyone who could connect him to the forged will. That's not even the worst part. Denise's voice dropped. I found a birth certificate, hidden in the county records. It was sealed, but I know someone who knows someone. Whose birth certificate? Gerald's. Maya Gerald Hayes isn't Catherine's cousin. He's her brother, half-brother. Same father, different mothers. Their father had an affair. Gerald was the result. He was raised by his mother, but he knew who his real father was. He knew what he was entitled to. Maya leaned against the wall, her mind reeling. Gerald wasn't just a distant relative seeking inheritance. He was Catherine's own brother, her own blood. And he had killed her anyway. Maya, are you still there? I'm here. I can't believe this. There's one more thing. I found hospital records from 6 years ago. Catherine was admitted to Boston General 2 weeks before she died. She was treated for severe nausea and vomiting, weight loss, muscle weakness. Maya's heart stopped. The same symptoms as Mason. Exactly the same. Maya, I think Gerald was poisoning Catherine before she died. I think the car accident wasn't just murder. I think it was Gerald finishing what the poison couldn't do fast enough. Maya closed her eyes. Catherine had been dying slowly, just like Mason, and when it wasn't working fast enough, Gerald had cut her brake lines and made it look like an accident. I have to tell the Whitmores. Be careful, Maya. If Gerald has been covering his tracks for 6 years, there might be other people involved. People who helped him. People who are still out there. I will. Thank you, Denise, for everything. Just stay safe, and call me the second anything happens. Maya hung up and walked back to the living room. Victoria and Richard were sitting on the couch, holding each other, looking like survivors of a natural disaster, which in a way they were. Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore, I need to tell you something. Something about Catherine. Richard looked up. His face was gray, aged 10 years in the past hour. What about Catherine? Maya sat down across from them. She told them everything Denise had found. The cut brake lines, the paid-off detective, the dead lawyer and witnesses, the hospital records showing Catherine had the same symptoms as Mason, and she told them about the birth certificate. Gerald is Catherine's half-brother. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. He's been living in this house for 18 years, and he's her brother. He was raised by his mother, but he knew who his father was. He knew about the fortune Catherine inherited, and he believed it should have been his. Richard stood up suddenly. He walked to the window and stood there, his back to them, his shoulders shaking. I brought him into this house. After Catherine died, I kept him on because he said he wanted to honor her memory. I trusted him with my son. I trusted him with everything. Richard, you couldn't have known. I should have known. Richard spun around, his face contorted with rage and grief. He killed my wife. He tried to kill my son, and I invited him in. I gave him keys to every room. I let him feed my child. Victoria went to him. She wrapped her arms around him and held him as he broke down. Maya watched them, feeling like an intruder on their grief. The police need to know about this, Maya said quietly. All of it. The evidence about Catherine, the connection between her death and Mason's poisoning. Everything. Victoria nodded without looking up. I'll call Detective Morrison. He's handling Gerald's case. Maya stood up to leave to give them privacy, but Victoria's voice stopped her. Maya, wait. Yes, ma'am. Victoria pulled away from Richard and walked to Maya. Her eyes were red, her face streaked with tears, but there was something fierce underneath, something maternal and protective. You saved my son. You exposed the man who killed my husband's first wife. You did what nobody else could do in 18 years. Victoria took Maya's hands. I don't know how to thank you. I don't know if I can ever thank you enough. You don't have to thank me. I just did what was right. No, you did what was dangerous. You did what was brave. You risked your life for a child you had known for less than a month. Victoria squeezed her hands. I want you to stay, not as a housekeeper, as Mason's guardian, as part of this family. Maya felt tears burn her eyes. Mrs. Whitmore, I don't know what to say. Say yes, please. Mason needs you. We all need you. Maya looked at Richard, who had collected himself enough to nod his agreement. Then she looked toward the stairs, toward the nursery, where a little boy was sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. "Yes, I'll stay." The next 3 days passed in a blur of police interviews, lawyer meetings, and media chaos. The story of the wealthy butler who had poisoned his employer's child was everywhere. News vans camped outside the mansion. Reporters called constantly. The whole country was watching. Mason continued to improve. He was eating regular meals now, supervised entirely by Maya. His cheeks were filling out. His eyes were bright. He was starting to talk again, starting to laugh, starting to be the child he should have been all along. On the 4th day after Gerald's arrest, Detective Morrison came to the house with news. "We've completed our preliminary investigation," he said, sitting across from Victoria and Richard in the study. Maya stood in the corner, refusing to leave, despite Victoria's offer for her to rest. "The evidence against Gerald Hayes is overwhelming. The substances found in his room match the traces we found in Mason's system. We also found a journal." "A journal?" Victoria repeated. "Gerald kept detailed records of everything. Doses, dates, Mason's reactions. He was tracking the poisoning like a science experiment." Detective Morrison's face was grim. He also wrote about Catherine, about planning her death, about paying off Detective Williams to close the case. Richard made a sound like he had been punched. He wrote it all down. 18 years of planning. It's all there. He was meticulous. "Why would he keep records?" Maya asked. "Why would he risk someone finding them?" "Arrogance," Detective Morrison said simply. Gerald believed he was smarter than everyone else. He believed he would never get caught. The journal was his trophy, his proof of how clever he was. "What happens now?" Victoria asked. "Gerald will be charged with attempted murder for what he did to Mason. We're also reopening Catherine's case. Based on the evidence in the journal and the information Maya's sister provided, we believe we can charge him with first-degree murder." Victoria let out a sob. Richard pulled her close. "There's one more thing," Detective Morrison said. He hesitated, looking uncomfortable. "Gerald has been talking. A lot. He says he wants to make a deal." "A deal?" Richard's voice was sharp. "What kind of deal?" "He claims he wasn't working alone. He says there are others involved, people who helped him forge Catherine's will, people who helped him cover up her murder." Detective Morrison paused. "He says he'll give us names if we take the death penalty off the table." Maya felt cold spread through her. "He's lying. He's trying to save himself." "Maybe, but we have to investigate. If there are other people involved, we need to know." Detective Morrison stood up. "I'll keep you informed of any developments. In the meantime, I'd recommend increasing your security, just in case." After the detective left the house, fell silent. Victoria and Richard sat together processing everything they had learned. Maya went upstairs to check on Mason. The little boy was awake, playing with his stuffed bear on the nursery floor. When he saw Maya, his face lit up. "Maya!" She knelt down beside him. "Hey, sweetheart. What are you playing?" "Bear is eating breakfast." Mason held up the stuffed animal. "Bear not scared anymore. Maya made it safe." Tears pricked Maya's eyes. "That's right, baby. It's safe now." "Bad man gone forever." "Yes, the bad man is gone forever." Mason nodded seriously. Then he reached up and touched Maya's face. Maya sad. "No, sweetheart, I'm not sad. I'm happy. I'm so happy you're okay." Mason smiled, that beautiful, innocent smile that had been hidden behind fear for so long. "Maya, stay." "Yeah, baby, I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere." She held him close, breathing in the sweet smell of his hair, feeling his small heart beat against her chest. This was what mattered, not the police investigations, or the media circus, or the monsters hiding behind pleasant smiles. This moment, this child, this second chance at life. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Maya's blood went cold as she read the words on the screen. "Gerald isn't the only one. You're not safe. None of you are safe." She stared at the message, her heart pounding. Gerald had said he wasn't working alone. The detective had mentioned others who might have helped with the forgery and cover-up. Someone else was out there. Someone who knew what had happened. Someone who was watching. Maya looked at Mason, still smiling, still trusting, completely unaware that the danger wasn't over. She had saved him from one monster. But there might be more. The next morning, Maya showed the text message to Detective Morrison. "We're tracing the number," he said, "but I wouldn't hold my breath. These kinds of messages usually come from burner phones. What about Gerald? Have you asked him about his accomplices? He's not talking anymore. His lawyer shut him down, says he won't say another word without a formal deal in writing." Maya paced the study, her mind racing. Someone knows what happened. Someone helped Gerald and they're still out there. What if they come after Mason? "We've increased patrols around the house. I've also recommended that the Whitmores hire private security." Detective Morrison paused. "Maya, I know you feel responsible for this family, but you need to be careful too. If someone is targeting the Whitmores, they might target you as well." "I can take care of myself." "Can you? You're a former nurse's assistant. These people killed a woman and covered it up for 6 years. They're not amateurs." Maya stopped pacing. The detective was right. She had gotten lucky with Gerald. She had caught him off guard, found his hidden evidence, exposed his crimes. But what if the next threat came from someone smarter, someone more careful, someone who didn't keep journals of their crimes? "What do you suggest I do?" "Stay alert. Don't trust anyone new. And if anything seems wrong, anything at all, call me immediately." After the detective left, Maya found Victoria in the kitchen making Mason's lunch herself. It was the first time Maya had seen her cook since she started working here. "I used to cook for Richard when we first got married," Victoria said, noticing Maya's surprise. "Before we had money for staff, before Gerald took over everything." Her voice caught on his name. "I trusted him with my son's food, every meal for 2 years, every single meal." "You couldn't have known." "Everyone keeps saying that, but it doesn't help. It doesn't change the fact that I handed my baby to a murderer and said, 'Please feed him.'" Maya sat down at the kitchen counter. "Mrs. Whitmore, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Gerald said he wasn't working alone. The police think there might be others involved. People who helped forge Catherine's will. People who helped cover up her murder." Maya paused. "Do you know anyone who was close to Gerald? Anyone he trusted?" Victoria thought for a moment. "Gerald kept to himself mostly. He was friendly with the staff, but never close. The only person I ever saw him talk to regularly was—" She stopped. Her face went pale. "Who?" "Thomas Brennan, Richard's financial advisor. He's been managing the family money since before Catherine died." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "Thomas Brennan. Where is he now?" "He has an office downtown. Richard meets with him every month to review investments." Victoria's hands were shaking. "Oh, God." "Thomas has access to all our accounts. He knows everything about our finances. If he was working with Gerald—" Maya pulled out her phone. "We need to call Detective Morrison." "Wait!" Victoria grabbed her arm. "If Thomas is involved, if he knows we're suspicious, he might run. Or worse, he might do something desperate." "What are you suggesting?" Victoria's eyes were hard, determined. "Richard has a meeting with Thomas this afternoon, 3 o'clock. I think we should keep that meeting." "You want to send Richard into a meeting with someone who might have helped kill his first wife." "I want to catch him. I want to look him in the eye and make him confess." Victoria's voice was steel. "These people took Catherine. They tried to take Mason. I'm not going to let them get away with it." Maya understood that anger. She felt it herself. But she also knew that anger made people careless. "Let me go instead." "What?" "Thomas doesn't know me. He doesn't know I'm the one who exposed Gerald. If I go to his office, pretend to be a new client, I might be able to get him talking. That's dangerous. So is sending Richard. Thomas knows Richard. He'll be on guard. But me—" Maya shrugged. "I'm just a black woman looking for financial advice. Nobody ever suspects people like me of being dangerous." Victoria stared at her for a long moment. "You're serious?" "I saved your son from one monster. Let me help you catch the rest of them." At 2:45 that afternoon, Maya walked into the offices of Brennan Financial Management. She wore her best dress, the one she had worn to her interview at the Whitmore Mansion a lifetime ago. She carried a folder full of fake documents and a wire hidden under her blouse. Detective Morrison had wanted to send an undercover officer, but Maya had convinced him that she was the best choice. She had the motivation, she had the anger, and she had nothing left to lose. The receptionist looked up with a practiced smile. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Mr. Brennan. I called this morning about opening an account." "Of course. Ms. Johnson, right? He's expecting you. Second door on the left." Maya walked down the hallway, her heart pounding. She had done research on Thomas Brennan all morning. 53 years old, divorced, no children. He had been Catherine's financial advisor before becoming Richard's. He had managed the family fortune for over a decade. And according to Gerald's journal, which Detective Morrison had shared with her, Thomas had been the one who found the lawyer willing to forge Catherine's will. Maya knocked on the door. "Come in." Thomas Brennan was exactly what she expected. Gray suit, expensive watch, the kind of confident smile that came from years of handling other people's money. He stood as she entered and extended his hand. "Ms. Johnson, please have a seat. Can I get you anything, coffee, water?" "Water would be nice." He poured her a glass from a pitcher on his desk. Maya noticed his hands were steady, calm. Either he didn't know about Gerald's arrest, or he was very good at hiding his reactions. "So, Ms. Johnson, you mentioned on the phone that you recently came into some money. An inheritance." "Yes, my grandmother passed away. She left me everything." The lie came easily. Maya had practiced it all morning. "I'm not really sure what to do with it. Someone recommended your firm." "I'm sorry for your loss. Inheritances can be overwhelming, especially when they come unexpectedly." Thomas leaned back in his chair. "Can I ask how much we're talking about?" $300,000. Thomas's eyebrows rose slightly. "That's a significant sum. Your grandmother must have been quite successful." "She was a teacher, saved every penny for 40 years. Maya paused. "I want to make sure her money is protected. I've heard stories about financial advisors taking advantage of clients, especially clients who don't understand investments. I assure you, Ms. Johnson, my firm has an impeccable reputation. We've been managing wealth for some of Boston's most prominent families for over 20 years. Like the Whitmores." Thomas's expression flickered. Just for a second. A tightening around the eyes, a slight tension in his jaw. "Yes, like the Whitmores. They've been clients for many years. I heard about what happened, on the news, that butler trying to poison their son." Maya shook her head. "Terrible. Just terrible." "Yes, very unfortunate." "Did you know him? The butler, Gerald Hayes?" Thomas picked up a pen and started turning it between his fingers, a nervous habit. "I met him a few times, at the Whitmore house. Seemed like a pleasant man. Just goes to show you never really know people." "No," Maya agreed. "You never do." She let the silence stretch. Thomas shifted in his seat. "Well, Ms. Johnson, shall we discuss your investment options? I have several strategies that might work well for someone in your situation." "Actually, I have a few more questions first." Maya leaned forward. "About the Whitmores. I read that the butler was trying to contest some kind of inheritance, something about the first wife's will." Thomas's face went carefully blank. "I'm afraid I can't discuss other clients' financial matters. Confidentiality, you understand." "Of course. I just thought since it's all public now with the arrest and everything." Maya paused. The news said the will might have been forged, that there were people who helped the butler cover everything up. Thomas stood up abruptly. "I think we're done here, Ms. Johnson. I'm sorry. I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm not interested. Please leave my office." Maya didn't move. "Mr. Brennan, I'm not playing any games. I'm just asking questions." "You're asking questions about a criminal case that has nothing to do with you. That tells me you're either a reporter fishing for a story or something worse." Thomas walked to the door and opened it. "Either way, this meeting is over." Maya stood slowly. She had pushed too hard, too fast. Rookie mistake. But she had seen something in his eyes when she mentioned the forged will. Fear, real fear. He knew. He definitely knew. "I'm sorry if I offended you, Mr. Brennan. I was just curious." Curiosity killed the cat, Ms. Johnson. Remember that. Maya walked past him into the hallway. As she passed, she stopped and looked him directly in the eyes. "You know what they say about cats, Mr. Brennan? They have 9 lives." She left the office and walked to her car. Her hands were shaking as she pulled out her phone and called Detective Morrison. "He's involved, I'm sure of it. He practically threw me out when I mentioned the forged will." "Did he admit to anything?" "No. He's too smart for that. But he knows, Detective. He knows what Gerald did, and he's scared." "All right. I'm going to bring him in for questioning. We'll see how smart he is when he's sitting in an interrogation room." Maya hung up and started her car. She was pulling out of the parking garage when her phone buzzed again. Another text from an unknown number. "You should have taken the hint. Now it's too late." Maya's heart stopped. She looked up just in time to see a black SUV speeding toward her. She yanked the steering wheel hard to the right. The SUV clipped her rear bumper. Her car spun tires screaming against concrete. She crashed into a pillar, and everything went dark. When Maya opened her eyes, she was lying on a hospital bed. Her head was pounding, her arm was in a sling. Victoria Whitmore was sitting beside her, holding her hand. "Thank God you're awake." "What happened?" "Someone tried to run you off the road. Your car is totaled, but you're alive." Victoria's voice shook. "The police found the SUV abandoned 2 miles away, stolen. No prints." Maya tried to sit up and gasped at the pain in her ribs. "Thomas Brennan, it had to be him." "He's gone, cleared out his office and disappeared. The police are looking for him, but—" Victoria didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Maya closed her eyes. She had pushed too hard. She had tipped him off, and now he was in the wind, free to plan his next move. "Mason," she whispered. "He's safe. Richard hired private security. 4 men. They're watching the house around the clock." "It's not enough. Thomas knows everything about your finances, your schedule, your routines. He could get to Mason if he wanted to." "I know." Victoria's voice was grim. "That's why we're leaving. Tomorrow morning. We're taking Mason somewhere safe until this is over." "Where?" "Richard's family has a cabin in Vermont. Remote. Off the grid. Nobody knows about it except immediate family." Maya shook her head. "I'm coming with you. Maya, you have a concussion, 2 cracked ribs. You need to rest. I need to protect Mason. I didn't save him from Gerald just to let someone else finish the job." Victoria looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "All right. But you have to promise me you'll take it easy. No more playing detective." "I promise." It was a lie. They both knew it was a lie. But some lies were necessary. Some lies were the only way to survive. The next morning, Maya discharged herself from the hospital against medical advice. Her head was still pounding. Her ribs screamed with every breath. But she climbed into the Whitmore's car and held Mason on her lap as they drove north toward Vermont. The little boy was quiet during the drive. He could sense something was wrong. Children always could. "Maya hurt. Just a little, sweetheart. I'll be okay. Bad men hurt Maya." Maya looked into his innocent eyes. This child had already seen too much, had already learned too young that the world was full of monsters. "Some bad men tried to hurt me, but they didn't win. I'm still here, and I'm going to keep you safe. I promise." Mason nodded seriously. Then he snuggled against her chest and closed his eyes. Maya held him close, ignoring the pain in her ribs, watching the city disappear behind them. They were running, hiding, hoping that distance would keep them safe. But Maya knew better. Thomas Brennan was out there somewhere, watching, waiting, planning. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The cabin appeared through the trees after 4 hours of driving on roads that grew progressively worse. Maya's ribs ached with every bump, but she kept her arm wrapped around Mason, who had fallen asleep against her chest somewhere around the New Hampshire border. Richard turned off the engine and sat there for a moment, hands still gripping the steering wheel. "We should be safe here. Nobody knows about this place." "How can you be sure?" Maya asked. "My grandfather built it in 1952. It's never been listed on any official documents. The deed is in a trust under a different name." Richard finally let go of the wheel. "Catherine didn't even know about it. I never told her." Victoria turned around from the front seat. "Why not?" "Because my father told me never to tell anyone. He said every family needs a place to disappear to, a place that exists outside the system." Richard laughed bitterly. "I thought he was being paranoid. Turns out he was right." They unloaded the car quickly. 2 security guards swept the cabin while the other 2 established a perimeter. Maya carried Mason inside and laid him on a worn couch that smelled like pine and old memories. The little boy stirred but didn't wake. He was exhausted. They all were. Maya's phone buzzed. Detective Morrison. "We found Thomas Brennan." Maya's heart jumped. "Where?" "His body washed up on a beach in Rhode Island this morning. Single gunshot wound to the head, execution style." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. Someone killed him. "Looks like it. Whoever he was working with didn't want him talking." Victoria had walked over close enough to hear. Her face went white. "There's someone else, someone above Thomas." "That's what we're thinking," Detective Morrison said. "Mrs. Whitmore, I need to ask you something. Did Catherine have any enemies, anyone who might have wanted her dead besides Gerald?" Victoria shook her head helplessly. "I never knew Catherine. She died before I met Richard." "Mr. Whitmore, then. Can you think of anyone?" Richard had joined them, his face gray. "Catherine was beloved. Everyone loved her. She didn't have enemies." "Everyone has enemies, Mr. Whitmore. Sometimes they just don't know it." After the call ended, Maya sat down heavily on a wooden chair. Her head was pounding again. The pain medication was wearing off, but she couldn't afford to be foggy. Not now. "Someone killed Thomas to keep him quiet," she said slowly. "That means whoever is really behind this is still out there, and they're cleaning up loose ends." "Gerald," Richard said suddenly. "Gerald is a loose end too. If they killed Thomas, they might try to kill Gerald." Maya grabbed her phone and called Detective Morrison back. "Gerald Hayes, you need to put him in protective custody, right now." "What, why?" "Thomas Brennan was killed to keep him quiet. Gerald knows even more. If whoever is behind this wants to erase all connections, Gerald is next." "I'll make some calls. Stay where you are. Don't go anywhere. Don't contact anyone." Maya hung up and looked at the Whitmores. They were holding on to each other like survivors of a shipwreck, which in many ways they were. "Who would do this?" Victoria whispered. "Who would kill Catherine, try to kill Mason, and now murder Thomas? What could possibly be worth all of this?" "Money," Maya said quietly. "It's always about money." But Catherine's money went to Richard. The will was changed. Even if it was forged, Richard still got everything. Unless someone else was supposed to get it. Maya's mind was racing. Gerald thought he should inherit because he was Catherine's half-brother. But what if there's someone else, someone with an even stronger claim? Richard shook his head. Catherine was an only child. Her parents are dead. Gerald was her only living relative. "That you know of." The words hung in the air. Richard's face went pale. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that secrets have a way of staying hidden until someone digs them up. Gerald was Catherine's half-brother and nobody knew for 6 years. What else might be buried?" Victoria stood up abruptly. "We need to find out everything about Catherine's family, her parents, her grandparents. Anyone who might have a claim to that inheritance." "The original will," Maya said. "The one Gerald had. It left everything to Catherine's family. But who specifically? We assumed it meant Gerald. But what if there were other names on that document?" Richard pulled out his phone. "I know someone, a private investigator. He helped me with some business matters years ago. If anyone can dig up buried family secrets, he can." "Can you trust him?" "I don't know who I can trust anymore, but I don't have a choice." He made the call and walked to the other side of the cabin, speaking in low tones. Maya watched him, then turned to check on Mason. The little boy was still asleep, his chest rising and falling peacefully. Looking at him, you would never know that someone had tried to kill him, that someone might still be trying. Maya sat down beside him and stroked his hair. This child had become everything to her. In just a few weeks, he had gone from a stranger to the center of her world. She would die before she let anyone hurt him again. Her phone buzzed. Denise. "Maya, where are you? I went to the hospital and they said you discharged yourself. Are you crazy?" "I'm safe. We're at a cabin in Vermont. The Whitmores are hiding until the police figure out who else is involved." "Maya, I'm scared. Someone is killing people. First they tried to kill you, then Thomas Brennan. Who's next?" "I don't know, but I'm not going to sit around and wait to find out." "What are you going to do?" "Whatever I have to." She hung up and found Victoria standing in the kitchen, staring out the window at the darkening forest. "He's still asleep," Maya said. "He's getting stronger every day. Another week of good food and rest, he'll be back to normal." "Will he?" Victoria's voice was hollow. "Will any of us ever be normal again? My son was poisoned for months by someone I trusted. Someone is killing people connected to my husband's dead wife, and we're hiding in a cabin in the woods like criminals." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "This isn't normal. This will never be normal. Mrs. Whitmore, I know this is hard, but Mason is alive. You're alive. Your family is together. That's what matters." Victoria turned to face her. "You really believe that, don't you?" "Yes, I do." How can you stay so calm when everything is falling apart?" Maya thought about the question. She thought about her years at the hospital watching children die despite everyone's best efforts. She thought about losing her job, her apartment, her sense of purpose. She thought about walking into the Whitmore mansion, expecting nothing, and finding a child who needed saving. "Because I've seen worse," she said finally. "And I've learned that the only thing you can control is what you do next. So I focus on that. One step at a time, one moment at a time, one breath at a time." Victoria stared at her for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "You're remarkable, Maya. Has anyone ever told you that—" "My grandmother used to say I was too stubborn to know when to quit." "That's not stubbornness. That's strength." Richard walked back into the room, his face troubled. "My investigator found something. It's not good." "What is it?" "Catherine's father had another child. Not Gerald. Someone else. A daughter. Born 2 years before Catherine, given up for adoption at birth." Maya felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Catherine had a sister. Half-sister. Same father, different mother. Just like Gerald. Apparently, Catherine's father was quite the philanderer in his youth. "Where is she now?" "This sister." Richard's face was grim. "Her name is Patricia Holloway. She's 52 years old, lives in Connecticut, and according to my investigator, she has a son." "So?" "Her son is a lawyer. He specializes in inheritance disputes, and 3 months ago he started making inquiries about Catherine Hayes Whitmore's estate." Maya's blood ran cold. 3 months ago, that's when Mason started getting sick. Exactly. Victoria grabbed Richard's arm. "Are you saying this Patricia person is behind everything? That she's the one who planned all of this?" "I don't know, but my investigator found something else. Patricia Holloway visited Gerald Hayes in prison 2 days ago." The room went silent. Maya's mind raced through the implications. Catherine's unknown half-sister, visiting Gerald in prison, making inquiries about the estate through her lawyer son, and Thomas Brennan, the financial advisor who helped forge the will murdered execution style. "She's cleaning house," Maya said slowly. "Patricia is eliminating everyone who could connect her to the conspiracy. Thomas knew about the forged will, so she killed him. Gerald knows about her involvement, so she visited him in prison, either to threaten him or to make a deal." "But why?" Victoria asked. "She's Catherine's sister. If the original will left everything to family, she would have inherited regardless." "Why kill Catherine? Why try to kill Mason?" "Because the original will was specific," Maya said, the pieces clicking into place. "Gerald said it left everything to Catherine's father's side of the family. But Patricia was probably excluded. Children born out of wedlock given up for adoption, they were often written out of family documents in those days. Patricia wouldn't have gotten anything. So she forged a new will, Richard said, one that left everything to me, knowing that Gerald would eventually try to get it back. And while Gerald was busy poisoning Mason, Patricia was waiting in the shadows, ready to swoop in and contest everything once the chaos died down. She played everyone, Maya breathed. Gerald thought he was the mastermind, but he was just a pawn. Thomas thought he was making money, but he was a loose end waiting to be cut. And all along, Patricia was pulling the strings. Victoria's face was pale with fury. This woman killed my husband's first wife. She tried to kill my son, and she's been hiding in plain sight for 6 years. Not hiding anymore. Maya stood up. We need to call Detective Morrison. Tell him everything. Before she could reach for her phone, the lights went out. The cabin plunged into darkness. Mason woke up crying. Victoria screamed. The security guards shouted something outside, but Maya couldn't hear what. Then the gunshots started. Maya moved on instinct. She grabbed Mason from the couch and ran toward the back of the cabin. Behind her, she heard Richard shouting, heard Victoria crying, heard more gunshots echoing through the night. Maya, Victoria's voice was desperate, terrified. Stay down! Get to cover! Maya found the back door and kicked it open. The cold Vermont air hit her face like a slap. She ran into the darkness. Mason clutched against her chest, her cracked ribs screaming with every step. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Multiple footsteps. Coming fast. She couldn't outrun them. Not with Mason. Not with her injuries. She spotted a large rock formation ahead and ducked behind it, pressing Mason against her body, clamping her hand over his mouth. Shh, baby. You have to be quiet. Can you do that for me? Can you be really, really quiet? Mason nodded against her hand, his eyes wide with terror. The footsteps grew closer. Maya held her breath. I know you're out here, Maya. A woman's voice. Calm, cultured, the voice of someone used to being in control. You've been quite the inconvenience, you know, a housekeeper, a nobody, and you've managed to unravel 18 years of careful planning. Maya didn't respond. She pressed herself deeper into the shadows, trying to make herself invisible. Gerald was supposed to handle everything. Simple plan, really. Poison the boy slowly, make it look like failure to thrive, collect the insurance contest that will redistribute the assets. The footsteps stopped. Close. Too close. But then you showed up with your suspicious eyes and your sealed baby food. You ruined everything. Maya's hand found a rock on the ground. It wasn't much, but it was something. I'm going to find you, Maya. And when I do, I'm going to kill you. Then I'm going to kill that boy. And then I'm going to walk back to that cabin and finish off the Whitmores. The woman laughed softly. By morning, this will all be over. The family line ends here. The fortune reverts to probate. And I, as Catherine's only surviving blood relative, will finally get what I deserve. Maya's jaw tightened. Patricia Holloway. It had to be her. The woman who had orchestrated everything. The woman who had waited in the shadows for 6 years, manipulating Gerald, using Thomas, killing anyone who got in her way. And now, she was here. In the darkness. Hunting them. Mason whimpered against Maya's hand. She tightened her grip, willing him to stay silent. There you are. Maya looked up. Patricia Holloway stood above her, silhouetted against the night sky. She was holding a gun pointed directly at Maya's head. You know, I almost admire you, Patricia said conversationally. You saw what no one else could see. You saved that boy when everyone else had given up. If you had just minded your own business, you could have walked away with a nice severance package and a clean conscience. I couldn't let him die. Why not? He's not your child. He's not your family. What is he to you? Everything. Patricia tilted her head, studying Maya like a curious specimen. How touching. The lowly maid sacrificing herself for her master's child. It's almost poetic. I'm not a maid. I'm a mother. Maybe not by blood, but by choice. And I will never let you hurt him. You're not in a position to stop me. Maya's hand tightened around the rock. She had one chance, one moment. If she missed, they were both dead. Any last words? Maya looked at Mason, still pressed against her chest, his eyes squeezed shut, his little body trembling with fear. "Yeah," she said. "Duck." She threw the rock with everything she had. It caught Patricia in the face. The gun went off the bullet, tearing through the air inches from Maya's head. Patricia stumbled backward, screaming, clutching her face. Maya ran. She ran through the darkness, through the trees, through the pain that threatened to tear her apart. Mason clung to her neck, silent now, trusting her completely. Behind her, she heard Patricia screaming orders, heard more footsteps, heard more gunshots. But Maya didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Mason's life depended on her. Everything depended on her. She burst through a line of trees and found herself on a road, a dirt road barely visible in the darkness. Headlights appeared in the distance, coming fast. Maya waved her free arm frantically. "Stop! Please stop!" The vehicle screeched to a halt. A door flew open. Detective Morrison. "Get in now!" Maya threw herself into the car, still clutching Mason. Morrison floored the accelerator before she even had the door closed. "How did you find us?" "Your phone. I've been tracking it since you left Boston." Morrison's face was grim. "We got a tip that Patricia Holloway was on the move. I tried to call you, but the lines were jammed." "The Whitmores, Victoria and Richard, they're still at the cabin. I have backup coming. SWAT team. They'll be there in 5 minutes." Maya looked back through the rear window. She could see lights through the trees, flashlights, searching. "She's not going to stop," Maya said. "Patricia won't stop until everyone is dead. Then we stop her first." Mason lifted his head from Maya's shoulder. His face was streaked with tears, but his eyes were clear. "Bad lady." "Yes, baby, a very bad lady. But the police are going to stop her." "Maya, stop her." Maya looked at this little boy who trusted her so completely. This child who had survived poison, survived terror, survived everything the world had thrown at him. "Yeah, baby, Maya's going to stop her." Morrison handed her his backup weapon. "You know how to use this. I grew up in South Boston. My daddy taught me to shoot before I could ride a bike." "Good. Because I have a feeling we're going to need all the help we can get." They drove through the darkness toward the cabin, toward the danger. Behind them, sirens wailed in the distance. Backup was coming. But Maya knew it might not be enough. Patricia Holloway had spent 6 years planning this. She had killed multiple people. She had resources, connections, and nothing left to lose. This night was going to end in blood. Maya just had to make sure it wasn't Mason's. The cabin came into view. Police cars surrounded it, lights flashing. SWAT officers moved through the trees like shadows. Morrison pulled up and they got out. A lieutenant approached immediately. "We have 3 suspects in custody. 2 more dead. The Whitmores are safe." Maya felt relief flood through her. Patricia Holloway. Gone. She escaped into the woods. We have dogs tracking her, but... The lieutenant shook his head. These woods go on for miles. If she knows the terrain, she could be anywhere. Maya looked at the dark forest. Somewhere out there, a murderer was running. A woman who had killed her own half-sister. A woman who had tried to kill a 2-year-old child. A woman who would never stop until she got what she wanted. "She'll come back," Maya said quietly. "She didn't come all this way to give up now. We have the cabin surrounded. If she comes back, we'll catch her." But Maya knew better. Patricia Holloway wasn't going to walk into an obvious trap. She was too smart for that. She would wait, watch, find another way. Unless Maya found her first. "Detective Morrison, I need to ask you something." "What?" "If Patricia gets away tonight, what happens?" Morrison's face was grim. "We issue a warrant, hunt her down, eventually catch her." "How long?" "Could be days, could be weeks, could be months. And in the meantime, the Whitmores stay in protective custody. You stay in protective custody. Everyone waits." Maya shook her head. "I'm not going to spend months waiting for a murderer to make her next move. Mason can't live like that. The Whitmores can't live like that." "What are you suggesting?" Maya looked at the forest again. Then she looked at Morrison's gun still in her hand. "I'm suggesting I go find her." That's suicide. She's armed. She's desperate. And you have cracked ribs and a concussion. I have something she doesn't have. What's that? Maya thought about Mason, about his trust, about his smile, about the way he called her name when he was scared. Something worth fighting for. Morrison stared at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head slowly. I can't officially authorize this. You understand that? I understand. And I can't stop you from taking a walk in the woods to clear your head. No, you can't. Morrison reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. Take this. It's a tracker. If you get in trouble, press the button. We'll find you. Maya took it. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just come back alive. Maya walked toward the tree line, toward the darkness, toward the woman who had destroyed so many lives. Behind her, she heard Mason's voice. Maya. She turned. Victoria was holding him, both of them, watching her with fear and hope in their eyes. I'll be back, baby. I promise. Be careful. Always. She stepped into the forest and disappeared. The darkness swallowed her immediately. Maya moved slowly, carefully, her eyes adjusting to the lack of light. She had grown up in Boston, but she had spent summers at her grandmother's farm in rural Georgia. She knew how to move through woods without making noise. Patricia Holloway didn't. Maya heard her after 10 minutes of walking, stumbling, cursing. The sound of someone unused to wilderness, someone whose expensive shoes and designer clothes were useless out here. Maya followed the sounds, closing the distance, her heart pounding but her hands steady. She found Patricia in a small clearing trying to use her phone. No signal, of course. They were miles from any cell tower. Maya stepped out of the shadows. It's over, Patricia. Patricia spun around, her gun raised, but she was shaking, exhausted. The rock Maya had thrown had left a gash on her forehead that was still bleeding. You! How did you find me? I listened. You're not as quiet as you think you are. Patricia laughed. It was an ugly sound. So what now? You're going to shoot me, a maid from South Boston. You don't have the stomach for it. You'd be surprised what I have the stomach for when someone threatens my family. Your family? Patricia's eyes narrowed. That boy isn't your family. Those people aren't your family. You're hired help. You're nobody. I'm the nobody who figured out your plan. I'm the nobody who saved Mason's life, and I'm the nobody who's going to make sure you never hurt anyone again. Patricia's gun wavered. You can't prove anything. My lawyers will tear apart any case they try to build. Gerald will take the fall. He's already confessed to everything. And I'll walk away clean just like I always do. Maybe. But you'll walk away knowing that you failed. That a maid from South Boston stopped you. That a 2-year-old boy survived everything you threw at him. That Catherine's real legacy lives on in Mason, not in you. Something broke in Patricia's face. All the careful control, all the calculated coldness shattered like glass. Catherine, she spat. Everyone loved Catherine, the golden child, the legitimate daughter. She got everything. The house, the money, the future. And what did I get? Given away at birth, raised by strangers, told I was nothing. So you killed her? I took what was mine, what should have been mine from the beginning. Patricia's voice was rising, hysterical. Our father knew about me. He knew, and he did nothing. He left everything to Catherine and pretended I didn't exist. Well, I exist now. I'm the only one left. No, you're not. Patricia's eyes widened. What? Mason. Mason is Catherine's stepson, Richard's son. The Whitmore legacy continues through him. Maya's voice was steady. You can kill me. You can try to kill him. But someone will always survive. Someone will always remember what you did. And you'll never escape that. Patricia screamed. It was a sound of pure rage, pure frustration, pure defeat. She raised her gun. Maya raised hers. 2 shots rang out simultaneously. Maya felt the bullet graze her shoulder, spinning her around, sending her crashing to the ground. Pain exploded through her body. She tried to raise her gun, tried to aim, tried to finish the fight. But she couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Patricia Holloway lying motionless in the clearing, her gun still clutched in her hand, her eyes staring at nothing. Then, everything went black. Maya heard voices before she could see anything. Distant at first, like echoes from another world, then closer, clearer. Someone was calling her name. "Maya, Maya, can you hear me?" She tried to open her eyes, but they felt like they were glued shut. Her body was heavy, disconnected, floating somewhere between consciousness and oblivion. The last thing she remembered was the gunshot, the pain, Patricia's body falling. "She's waking up. Get the doctor." Footsteps, urgent voices, the smell of antiseptic and clean sheets. Hospital. She was in a hospital. Maya forced her eyes open. The light was blinding. She blinked several times, trying to focus. A face swam into view. Denise. Her sister was crying. "Oh, thank God. Thank God, Maya. I thought I lost you." "How long?" Maya's voice came out as a croak, barely recognizable. 3 days. You've been unconscious for 3 days. The bullet hit your shoulder and you lost a lot of blood. The doctors said if the police hadn't found you when they did, you would have died." Maya tried to sit up, but pain exploded through her entire body. She gasped and fell back against the pillows. "Don't move. You have 17 stitches in your shoulder, and your ribs are worse than before." Denise grabbed her hand. "What were you thinking, going after a killer by yourself with cracked ribs and a concussion? Are you insane?" "Mason." The name came out automatically, her first thought, her only thought. "Where's Mason?" "He's safe. The Whitmores are in the waiting room. They've been here every day since you were brought in." "Patricia." Denise's expression darkened. "Dead. Your bullet hit her in the chest. She died before the paramedics could reach her." Maya closed her eyes. She had killed someone. She had taken a life. She waited to feel something. Guilt, horror, regret. But all she felt was relief. "The police want to talk to you," Denise said. "Detective Morrison has been here twice. He says you're a hero. Says you ended a conspiracy that had been running for almost 20 years. I'm not a hero, I'm just someone who couldn't walk away." "That's exactly what makes you a hero." The door opened. Victoria rushed in, followed by Richard, followed by a small boy who broke free from his father's hand and ran straight to Maya's bed. "Maya." Mason tried to climb up onto the bed. Richard caught him just in time. "Careful, buddy. Maya has owies. We have to be gentle." "Maya hurt." Mason's face crumpled. "Bad lady hurt Maya." "Yes, sweetheart, but I'm okay. I'm going to be okay." Mason reached out his small hand and touched Maya's face. His fingers were gentle, careful, like he understood how fragile she was. "Maya brave. Maya saved me." Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. She couldn't stop them. All the fear, all the pain, all the terror of the past weeks poured out of her in that moment. "You saved me too, baby. You saved me too." Victoria was crying. Richard was crying. Even Denise, who prided herself on being tough, was wiping her eyes. "The doctors say you'll make a full recovery," Victoria said, her voice thick with emotion. 6 weeks of physical therapy for your shoulder, a few months for your ribs to fully heal, but you're going to be fine. What about Gerald? What happened to him? He's cooperating with the police now. Once he found out Patricia was dead, he started talking. He told them everything, the forged will, Catherine's murder, the plan to kill Mason, all of it. He's trying to cut a deal. He's trying to save himself. His lawyer is negotiating reduced charges in exchange for testimony. Richard's voice was bitter. He'll probably spend the rest of his life in prison, but he won't get the death penalty. Maya nodded slowly. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was something. Gerald would pay for what he did. Patricia had already paid the ultimate price, and Mason was alive. That was what mattered. "Maya, there's something we need to talk about." Victoria sat down in the chair beside the bed. "While you were unconscious, Richard and I had a lot of conversations about the future, about our family, about you." Maya felt a flutter of anxiety in her chest. "What about me?" "We want you to stay. not as a housekeeper, not as a nanny, as Mason's legal guardian. Maya stared at her. What? We've already talked to our lawyers. In the event that anything happens to us, we want Mason to go to you. We want to make it official, legal, permanent. I don't understand. You have family. You have friends. Why would you choose me? Victoria took her hand. Because you're the only person who saw Mason when no one else did. You're the only person who believed him when no one else would. You saved his life, Maya. Not once, but multiple times. You almost died protecting him. Her voice broke. That's not something employees do. That's something family does. Maya looked at Mason still standing by the bed, his small hand resting on her arm. This child who had been through so much. This child who had survived against all odds. This child who looked at her like she was the center of his universe. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll stay. I'll be whatever Mason needs me to be. Mason's face lit up. Maya, stay forever. Yeah, baby, forever. He climbed onto the bed, ignoring Richard's protests, and snuggled against Maya's uninjured side. She wrapped her good arm around him and held him close. This was what it felt like to have a purpose. This was what it felt like to belong. 2 weeks later, Maya was discharged from the hospital. The Whitmores had prepared a room for her at the mansion. Not the small staff quarters on the 3rd floor, but a proper bedroom on the 2nd floor right next to Mason's nursery. Victoria had decorated it herself, filled it with flowers and books and everything she thought Maya might need. This is too much, Maya said when she saw it. This is not enough, Victoria replied. Not nearly enough for what you did for our family. The first night back, Maya couldn't sleep. Her shoulder ached despite the pain medication. Her mind kept replaying everything that had happened. Gerald's confession, Patricia's final moments, the sound of the gunshot that nearly ended her life. She got up and walked to Mason's nursery. The little boy was sleeping peacefully, his stuffed bear tucked under his arm, his chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm of healthy sleep. Maya stood in the doorway, watching him, feeling something shift inside her. For 4 years, she had worked at Boston Children's Hospital, caring for sick children, watching some of them get better and some of them slip away. She had always felt like she was making a difference, but it was different with Mason. This child wasn't a patient. He wasn't a case file. He was hers. In every way that mattered, he was hers. You're going to be okay, sweetheart, she whispered into the darkness. I'm going to make sure of it. Mason stirred in his sleep. His eyes fluttered open, briefly found her silhouette in the doorway, and he smiled. Night, Maya. Night, baby. He closed his eyes and drifted back to sleep. Maya stayed there for another hour, watching over him, protecting him, even from the monsters in dreams. The trial began 3 months later. Gerald Hayes pleaded guilty to attempted murder conspiracy to commit fraud and accessory to murder in the death of Catherine Hayes Whitmore. In exchange for his testimony about Patricia Holloway's role in the conspiracy, the prosecution agreed to take the death penalty off the table. Maya attended every day of the trial. She sat in the gallery with Victoria and Richard, listening as Gerald described in clinical detail how he had poisoned Mason, how he had measured the doses carefully, how he had watched the boy grow weaker and weaker, waiting for nature to finish what he had started. The worst part was hearing him talk about Catherine. I loved her, Gerald said on the witness stand. She was my sister, my blood, but she was standing in the way of what was rightfully mine. Our father's money should have gone to me. I was his firstborn. I was his only son. But because I was illegitimate, because I was born on the wrong side of the blanket, I got nothing. So you killed her, the prosecutor asked. I corrected an injustice. Maya felt Victoria's hand tighten on hers. Richard sat rigid beside them, his face carved from stone. And the child Mason Whitmore. What injustice did he represent? He was another obstacle, another person standing between me and what I deserved. He was 2 years old. Gerald's expression didn't change. Age doesn't matter. Only legacy matters. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They found Gerald Hayes guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As the bailiffs led him away, Gerald turned and looked directly at Maya. For a long moment, their eyes met. His face was blank, emotionless, the face of a man who had lost everything and felt nothing. Then he smiled. It was the same pleasant, warm smile he had worn for 18 years. The smile that had fooled everyone. The smile that had hidden a monster. Maya didn't look away. She held his gaze until the doors closed behind him, until he disappeared from sight, until he was gone from their lives forever. "It's over," Victoria whispered. "Yes," Maya said. "It's finally over." But even as she said the words, she knew that some things never truly ended. The scars remained. The nightmares lingered. The knowledge of what had happened would stay with them forever. The difference was that now they could heal. 6 months after the trial, Maya stood in a Boston courtroom for a very different reason. Victoria and Richard had petitioned for Maya to become Mason's legal godmother. The process had taken months of paperwork, background checks, and home visits. But today was the final step. Today would make it official. Mason sat between his parents wearing a tiny suit that made him look like a miniature businessman. He had grown so much in the past year. His cheeks were round and healthy. His eyes were bright with curiosity and mischief. He was loud, energetic, exhausting, everything a 3-year-old should be. The judge reviewed the paperwork, asked a few questions, and then smiled at Maya. "Ms. Johnson, do you understand the responsibilities you're accepting today?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And you agree to act as Mason Whitmore's godmother to provide for his welfare, guidance, and care in the event that his parents are unable to do so?" "I do." "Then by the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I hereby grant this petition. Congratulations, Ms. Johnson. You are now Mason Whitmore's legal godmother." Mason jumped up from his seat. "Does that mean Maya's my fairy godmother?" The whole courtroom laughed. Even the judge cracked a smile. "Something like that, young man." Mason ran to Maya and threw his arms around her waist. I told you Maya would stay forever." Maya knelt down and hugged him tight. "Yeah, baby, forever." Victoria and Richard joined them, wrapping their arms around Maya and Mason, creating a circle of family that had nothing to do with blood and everything to do with love. "Thank you," Victoria whispered in Maya's ear. "Thank you for everything. Thank you for letting me in." They left the courthouse together, a family forged in fire and tragedy and hope. That night they celebrated at home. Victoria ordered Mason's favorite pizza. Richard opened a bottle of champagne. Denise came over with a cake that said, "Congratulations, Fairy Godmother," in blue frosting. Mason stayed up past his bedtime, too excited to sleep, running around the house, showing everyone his official certificate that proved Maya was his godmother. "You know what this means?" he asked Maya seriously. "What does it mean?" "It means you can never leave. The paper says so." Maya laughed. "The paper is right. I can never leave." "Good." Mason nodded with satisfaction. "Because I need you." "I need you too, baby." "I know." He said it simply, confidently, the way children say things they know to be absolutely true. "That's why we belong together." Later, after Mason was finally asleep and the guests had gone home, Maya sat alone in the garden. The night was warm, the stars were bright, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt at peace. So much had changed since she walked into this mansion a year ago. She had been unemployed, desperate, ready to give up on everything. Now she had a family, a purpose, a reason to get up every morning. All because of a 2-year-old boy who had stopped eating. Victoria came outside and sat down beside her. "Penny, for your thoughts. I was just thinking about how strange life is. A year ago, I was nobody, a laid-off nurse's assistant with no money and no future. And now—" Maya gestured at the mansion, at the garden, at everything around them. "Now I have all of this. You earned it." "Did I? Sometimes I feel like I just stumbled into the right place at the right time." "Maya, listen to me." Victoria turned to face her. "You didn't stumble into anything. You saw what no one else could see. You believed a child when no one else would. You risked your life to save him. That's not luck. That's courage. That's who you are." Maya was quiet for a moment. "There were so many times I wanted to give up. So many times I thought I couldn't do it. That I wasn't strong enough, or smart enough, or brave enough." "But you didn't give up." "No, I didn't." "Why not?" Maya thought about the question. She thought about Mason's hollow eyes that first day in the nursery. She thought about his small hand reaching for hers. She thought about the word he had whispered, the first word he had spoken in 9 days. "Hurts." "Because he needed me," Maya said finally. "And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes being needed is the only thing that keeps us going." Victoria nodded slowly. "Richard and I have been talking about the future, about what we want for Mason." "What do you mean?" "We want to start a foundation in Mason's name. A foundation that helps children who are being abused or neglected, children whose voices aren't being heard." Victoria paused. "We want you to run it." Maya stared at her. "Me. You have the experience, you have the compassion, and most importantly, you understand what these children are going through. You see them the way no one else can." "Victoria, I don't know anything about running a foundation. You didn't know anything about catching murderers either, but you figured it out." Victoria smiled. "Think about it. You don't have to decide right now, but the offer is there whenever you're ready." Maya looked up at the stars. A foundation. A way to help other children the way she had helped Mason. A way to make sure no other child had to suffer in silence. "Okay," she said softly. "I'll think about it." 1 year later, the Mason Whitmore Foundation opened its doors. Maya stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony surrounded by reporters, donors, and supporters. Mason stood beside her now 4 years old, holding a giant pair of scissors that were almost as big as he was. "Ready, sweetheart. Ready." They cut the ribbon together. Cameras flashed, people applauded, and Maya felt something she had never felt before. Pride. Real, genuine pride in what she had accomplished. The foundation's mission was simple: to be the voice for children who couldn't speak for themselves. To investigate cases of abuse and neglect, to make sure that no child ever had to suffer alone. In its first year, the foundation helped over 200 children. Some were removed from dangerous homes. Some were reunited with loving family members. Some just needed someone to believe them, to see them, to tell them they mattered. Maya worked 18-hour days. She barely slept. She pushed herself harder than she had ever pushed in her life, and she loved every minute of it, because every child she helped was Mason. Every frightened face was his face. Every silent cry was his cry, and every rescue was a chance to do what she had done for him, to see the truth that no one else could see. On the 1-year anniversary of the foundation, Maya received a letter. It was from Gerald Hayes. She almost threw it away without reading it, but something made her stop. Something made her open the envelope and unfold the single sheet of paper inside. "Ms. Johnson," the letter began, "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I think about what I did every day. I think about Mason, about the fear in his eyes, about what I almost took from him, and I realize now that I was wrong. Not wrong in the legal sense, wrong in the human sense. I was so consumed by what I thought I deserved that I forgot what truly matters. Family isn't about blood or inheritance or legacy. It's about love. It's about being there for the people who need you. It's about what you've built with the Whitmores. I see that now too late. I hope Mason grows up to be everything I wasn't. I hope he learns that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the people who would die for you. You would die for him. I know that now. I knew it the moment you walked into the forest after Patricia. You're his real family, not me, not Patricia. You. Take care of him. He deserves someone like you." Maya read the letter 3 times. Then she folded it carefully and put it in her desk drawer. She didn't know how to feel about Gerald's words. She didn't know if she believed them. But she knew one thing for certain. She would take care of Mason. She would protect him for the rest of her life, not because Gerald asked her to, but because that was who she was. That was what she did. That was her purpose. 2 years later, Maya received news that Gerald Hayes had died in prison. Heart attack. He was alone when it happened. No family, no friends, no one to mourn him. Maya felt nothing. No satisfaction. No sadness. Just emptiness. "Are you okay?" Victoria asked her that evening. "I don't know. I thought I would feel something. Relief maybe, or vindication, but I just feel nothing." "That's okay. You don't owe him your emotions. He took enough from this family. I keep thinking about what he wrote in that letter, about family, about love, about what truly matters." Maya shook her head. He understood it at the end. He finally understood, but it was too late. It's never too late to understand. It's only too late to change. Maya thought about that, about the difference between understanding and changing, about how Gerald had spent his whole life chasing something that didn't matter only to realize the truth when there was no time left to act on it. She looked at Mason, now 6 years old, running around the backyard with a soccer ball. He was healthy, happy, full of life, everything Gerald had tried to destroy. "I'm grateful," Maya said suddenly. "For what?" "For all of it. Even the terrible parts, even the fear and the pain and the moments when I thought we weren't going to make it." She turned to Victoria. "Because it brought me here. It gave me Mason. It gave me a family. And I wouldn't trade that for anything." Victoria squeezed her hand. "Neither would I." 5 more years passed. Mason turned 11. He was smart, funny kind, everything his parents had hoped he would be. He loved soccer and video games and reading books about space. He still called Maya his fairy godmother, even though he was technically too old to believe in fairy tales. "Maya, can I ask you something?" They were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, something they did together every Sunday evening. "Of course, baby. You can ask me anything." "Do you remember when I was little, when I was sick?" Maya's heart clenched. They had never really talked about it, not directly. She had always waited for him to bring it up to be ready. "Yes, I remember. I remember too. Not everything, just pieces. I remember being scared all the time. I remember not wanting to eat because it hurt. And I remember you." Mason looked at her with those bright, intelligent eyes. "I remember you making it stop hurting." "The lemon," Maya said softly. "Do you remember the lemon?" "I remember the taste. Sour, but safe." Mason was quiet for a moment. "Mom and Dad told me what happened, what Gerald did, what Patricia did, all of it. They said you saved my life. I just did what anyone would do." "No, you didn't." Mason's voice was serious, older than his years. "Most people wouldn't have noticed. Most people wouldn't have cared. But you did. You saw me when no one else could." Maya felt tears threatening. She blinked them back. "You were worth seeing, Mason. You've always been worth seeing." "I want to be like you when I grow up. Like me. I want to help people. I want to see the things that other people miss. I want to save kids like you saved me." Maya looked at this boy who had grown from a terrified toddler into a compassionate young man. This child who had survived so much and come out the other side stronger. "You already are like me," she said. "You always have been." Mason leaned against her shoulder the way he had when he was small. Some things never changed, no matter how much time passed. "I love you, Maya." "I love you too, baby, more than you'll ever know." They sat there together watching the sun sink below the horizon, marking the end of another day and the promise of another tomorrow. The house was quiet. The world was at peace. And Maya finally understood what her grandmother had meant all those years ago when she said that the best things in life weren't planned. They were discovered, found in unexpected places, built from broken pieces. She had walked into the Whitmore mansion looking for a job. She had found a purpose. She had expected to clean houses. She had ended up saving lives. She had been nobody. A laid-off nurse's assistant with an empty bank account and no future. Now she was everything to a boy who had once been dying in plain sight. That was the power of seeing, the power of believing, the power of refusing to look away when the whole world told you nothing was wrong, because something had been wrong. Something had been terribly, horribly wrong. and Maya had been the only one brave enough to see it, the only one stubborn enough to fight it, the only one loving enough to fix it. Not with medicine or money or magic, with something far simpler, with lemon juice and sealed crackers, and the unshakable belief that every child deserves to be seen, every child deserves to be saved, every child deserves a fairy godmother who will walk into the darkness and bring them home. Maya Johnson had been many things in her life: a daughter, a sister, a nurse, a maid, but her greatest achievement, the one that would define her forever, was this: she had been the person who saw a dying child when no one else could, and she had refused to let him go. That was her legacy, that was her gift, that was her truth, and nothing, not time, not distance, not death itself could ever take that away. Some heroes wear capes, some heroes wear crowns, some heroes carry swords into battle and emerge covered in glory, but the greatest heroes are the ones who carry nothing but love, who fight nothing but fear, who conquer nothing but the silence that lets evil thrive. Maya Johnson was one of those heroes, and her story, the story of a maid who saved a millionaire's son with nothing but a lemon and a mother's heart, would be told for generations. Not because it was extraordinary, but because it was true.